to ask Eric and a few of our team members questions. Today, we're going to have Eric, our founder and CEO, provide an update on our progress since last webinar on September 16th. We have Oded Gal, the Chief Product Officer, will then recap recent product and security updates to our platform. And I'm going to go to the next slide here. And then we'll have Brendan Idelson, our Chief Technology Officer, who will share updates to our end-to-end encryption offering. And lastly, we'll open it up to Q&A. So we're delighted to see a number of you join us. And thank you for those that attended Zoomtopia. If you didn't get a chance to attend, we hope you found the content useful. And if you haven't, please go ahead and check that out. We wanted to encourage you to visit zoomtopia.com to watch the content on demand or review our blog for recaps and more information. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Eric.
Thank you, Kristen, and thank you all. So we are very excited to welcome you back to our webinar, which is our monthly webinar, which we are continuing to host every month as part of our ongoing commitment to being transparent with our users and also to provide privacy, security, and product updates as well. So as I mentioned during Zoom's last earnings announcement, individuals and organizations are actively redefining and embracing new approaches to support a future of working, learning, and connecting from anywhere. So we continued to see very meaningful adoption of our platform across industries and geographies, and resulting in Zoom having a much broader and diverse customer base. With the new school year underway, we are humbled by the role Zoom continues to play in powering education during this challenging time. Ensuring students are able to continue receiving their education. We remain committed to helping our education customers and stay connected, including the more than 100,000 K-12 schools around 25 countries who have signed up to use Zoom for free during the pandemic. Also, importantly, as you have heard me say before, right, privacy and security is embedded in everything we do at Zoom now. And since our last update in mid-September, we have taken a number of actions to demonstrate our continued commitment to these very key areas. For example, we are continuing to host daily webinars for users to share the best practices on how they can safely and securely host meetings. We also released additional security and safety features across our entire UCaaS portfolio to help our users better secure their meetings. And I think Oded, he will discuss in greater detail very soon. As Christine noted, last week we hosted our annual user conference, Zoomtopia, which is a two-day virtual conference. Security was one of the key themes of the event, and we dedicated 7 sessions to security topics, including deeper dives into specific geographical and vertical security topics. We also announced that Zoom's end-to-end encryption offering will soon be available to both free and paid users around the world as a technical preview. Also, Brandon will provide greater detail later on in the webinar. So furthermore, we unveiled major new developments with respect to our UCaaS platform, including the public beta launch of On Zoom, which is a one-of-a-kind online event platform for Zoom users to create and host free, paid, and fundraising events, as well as the introduction of Zaps. Zaps is a collection of the apps that users can use within the Zoom user interface, within the Zoom platform, to help improve productivity and create a more engaging experiences, which is very exciting. And if you did not get a chance, to look at the Zoomtopia or Zoom apps, I strongly recommend you go to Zoomtopia, .com. Here are some of the highlights from this year's event.
Entering Zoomtopia, and in 5, 4, 3.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Zoomtopia 2020. I want Zoomtopia to deliver you happiness.
I'm here broadcasting from the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah, it gets windy.
And while we're not together in person, there's one thing we can be certain of. We can continue to find new ways of learning together and have fun together on Zoom. Zoom, Zoom, Zoom.
Can you share with us some of your wisdom to how to improve student engagement?
It is still the human connection in the digital world that creates engagement.
What we are developing is immersive scenes
where you can actually put students behind desks that really make learning fun.
Yeah, and I'm very excited and can't wait to explore some of the reactions further because reactions are one of my favorite things to use.
Jensen, I wanted to be like you, so I'm also wearing a black leather jacket.
You look great.
So how do you keep up your motivation?
I'm surrounded by amazing people.
My dad would always tell me, today's the youngest you'll ever be, so live like it.
Zoomtopia is for you, and Zoom is for you. And we hope we can continue to have fun together on Zoom.
So it's very exciting. So over the course of our Zoomtopia, we hosted over 90 thought-provoking sessions and featured more than 250 very inspiring speakers. And the event was packed with very valuable content, and the speakers shared great insights on a wide range of topics. Again, if you weren't able to join any of the sessions, you can access the library of on-demand videos at zoomtopia.com. So I also want to take this opportunity to say a big thank you again to our sponsors and to all the customers, partners, and attendees who took part in Zoomtopia. We look forward to seeing everyone again at next year's Zoomtopia. With that, I will now turn it over to Odette, our Chief Product Officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Let me walk you through some of the safety and security features we recently introduced. Over the past few weeks, we have released a number of updates. Specifically, in our October 18th release, I'd like to share a few examples. Account owners and admins can now choose to allow or block participants from joining meetings or webinars from certain regions. This can be configured at the account, group, or user level and can be locked at the account or group level. Based on feedback from our education customers, the settings only authenticated users can join meetings will now always be available when scheduling a meeting, even if the setting is not enabled on the Zoom web portal. This setting can still be locked at the account or group level, and if it is on and blocked, users will not be able to uncheck it when scheduling. And finally, as more organizations are using Zoom webinars for virtual events, we've implemented new enhancements to the Q&A feature to make it easier for the host and panelists to moderate questions and further improve the safety of their large-scale events. Questions dismissed by the host or panelists are now hidden from the attendee's view, and questions will now indicate when another panelist is currently typing a response. Now, I'll hand it over to Brendan Itelson, our Chief Technology Officer, who will share more about our end-to-end encryption offering.
Thank you so much, Oded. We're very excited today to talk about our end-to-end encryption offering, which we will be bringing to everyone soon through a technical preview. But before we jump into the end-to-end encryption offering, I'd like to start off with providing a baseline understanding of how encryption works in Zoom today. So when you are joining a meeting, we have an example here with Alice and Bob joining from their computers. And what you see is the first step is Zoom servers in the center provide Alice and Bob a ephemeral meeting key that is generated by those servers for them to then use to encrypt their meeting traffic. And at that point, everything is encrypted as it goes from Alice to Bob and back using that key that they received to begin with. Now, when we switch to end-to-end, this flow changes slightly. So the first step in an end-to-end encrypted session is Alice and Bob both receive the cryptographic identity of the other individuals so that they know how to validate them. Next, we need to generate keys for this specific session. Instead of the meeting encryption key being generated on the server, in this case, Alice is generating it on her computer, and then Bob is generating a key pair, a public and private key, that he will use to help with the exchange of information. So at this phase, Bob is going to send his public key as well as that identity information across over to Alice so that she knows how to communicate with Bob. Now, Alice is going to take that meeting key that she generated, place it in a vault, and lock it using the public key that Bob provided. Now, once it's in that vault, she'll also sign it so that Bob knows that this came from Alice, and that vault will then transition and transfer across the cloud to Bob, who can validate it came from Alice, and then using Bob's private key, he can open that vault to then reach inside and grab the meeting key. With that meeting key, they can then use the encryption just as we have today with that AES 256 GCM. Now, what's very exciting about this, and what is the big change, is you'll notice that Zoom never received the encryption key. It was only exchanged between Alice and Bob through that vault. Now, we've looked under the hood at how end-to-end encryption works. I'd love to show you what it looks like from a user experience. So this all begins at scheduling a meeting. You'll notice in this interface that there's now an option to use our enhanced encryption, that first example that we provided a moment ago, or our new end-to-end encryption. And that can be selected at the time of scheduling. Once you've scheduled with that option, you can then join a standard meeting as usual. And from a user experience standpoint, you'll see that it looks very familiar. This, for example, is one of our internal meetings that we had using the end-to-end encryption product. And you might notice a few familiar faces there. Now, when we release end-to-end in this first phase, it will be very familiar, but there are a number of features that we will be continuing to work on as we look at later phases. So in the initial release, you will have this great experience, but some items will come in the future. So things such as PSTN won't be available since a phone call is not encrypted, and other items such as cloud recording and reactions are things that we will be disabling initially, but looking forward to adding in the future. So with that, I'd love to turn it back to Kristen.
Thank you, Brendan. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm gonna come back to the gallery view here and we can take a look at the questions that we have coming in. So the first question is, Brendan, for you. So when will end-to-end be globally available? And is it global?
So it will be globally available and it will be available within the next week.
Perfect. All right. Oded, so we talked a little bit, Eric talked a little bit about Zaps, but I think people are wondering, so if you want to go and build a Zap, if you're interested in doing that, where would they go and where could they find more information?
So right now we're still working on providing public documentation. What we will, share in the chat is a URL that you can go and at least register to receive the information when it's ready.
Perfect. So yeah, I just put a link in the chat. If you have more questions or if you want to take a look at what that might look like, you can definitely visit the website. There's some examples and more detailed information. All right, let's see. Oded, another question for you. So this, I think, came out of Zoomtopia as well, but what is the customizable SDK and how does that work?
Yeah, sure. And Eric, feel free to chime in. Basically, what we've had so far is the full client SDK, where you would use our existing client to provide services on top of our platform. With the customizable SDK, you are not restricted to our own UI. You can build your own UI and customize the experience with using the platform as a backend. So it provides you more flexibility in terms of what user interface you can provide to your users.
Great. Let's see. So maybe this is a question for everyone. What is your favorite new UCaaS feature that was announced last week at Zoomtopia?
I can start since I was talking recently. From my standpoint, I'm really excited about devices. And so really the Zoom for Home, the personal device that is really relying on D10, but also other vendors will come with those personal devices, and even the consumer-based smart screens, all kind of that you can run in your home, are really kind of an exciting progress that we're making and supporting the users that are joining from their homes.
Yeah, that was very cool. Brendan, what about you?
I'm really excited about the various platforms for development with our SDKs and Zaps, so that folks can integrate their application within Zoom or integrate Zoom within their application. It really opens up a lot of possibilities for folks to collaborate with video. So excited to see what folks develop in those areas and can leverage.
Eric, what about you?
I like everything, all the cool features and a huge effort behind every new announcement. Also, almost every feature, we got the feedback from our customers. Almost every feature will benefit a lot of users, a lot of new use cases. It's really hard to see which one is better, which one is more important. Seriously, I like everything, and yeah.
Well, Chami, what about yourself?
I would go with the API because it actually builds the ecosystem, and there is a lot of creativity that we can have our customers and partners actually build stuff that like we are not building yet.
Yeah,
but one feature I forgot to mention, even if I like everything, but one thing I specifically benefit from that is on Zoom service. I registered a class over the weekend for a cooking class. Seriously, I paid $5. So I really like it. So it's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a great place to go and kind of get exposed to new events and new things that you might be missing doing during the pandemic. It's going to give you a great opportunity to get exposed to that stuff.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's see. So this question, Valchami, is for you. You've made a number of recent product announcements last week. How can we be confident, how can our customers be confident that security and privacy are considered as part of this process as we're rolling out new features?
If you look at the announcement we made last week, I mean, the whole E2E, so that is making security like world-class, better than anything else. So security is now, you can say, is part of our DNA, security and privacy. And it's we did the 90 days, we are doing E2E, but every release, we are trying to see how we can even make it better. So that is a given, okay?
Yeah, it's just a core part of everything we're doing. It's something you guys constantly think about.
Yeah.
Let's see, this is another good one for Oded. I know a lot of people are in the webinar today and they were exposed to a lot of Zoom webinar last week. So one question is about, we get this question a lot about breakout rooms and debrief room for webinar. So just maybe could you touch on those features and when those might be available?
Yes, we are spending a lot of time on enhancing our breakout rooms and providing more capabilities. We're actually getting a lot of feedback from the education space, from a general training space, and even people who just use it for, off hours events, how they can use breakout rooms. And we have some enhancements that we recently really released to market. One that I really like, the one that you can create breakout rooms and allow the users to choose which breakout room they want to join. It's really great to kind of happy hour where you can have some social interaction between people and kind of simulate a party to some extent. And then we have, the debrief room and others that are coming in the beginning of next year. So really kind of a lot of things are coming very soon, and some things will be require more effort to the beginning of the year.
Yeah, the breakout rooms are great even for networking. If you think about wanting to break into smaller groups for networking at an event. And another question that someone was asking, or feature request, I guess, is in that kind of versioning where you maybe can select a breakout room with the co-host, or if you could assign a co-host to help you manage breakout rooms in the future. So I know that's definitely something that we have on our list. Oded, this is another great question about accessibility features and what we have with Zoom. So can you comment on what features we have for the hearing impaired or the sight impaired and the sensory and emotionally impaired? What are you looking to do in the next product release or in the future in terms of accessibility and making meetings more accessible for everyone?
So we do have existing capabilities for accessibility, and we do have a URL that we can share here in the chat, so people can go and look into how we integrate with existing machines that allow those impaired people to use our product. I think in general, one feature that is being released gradually to multiple users is the live transcription that many people really are looking to have, where it happens, it works automatically. You don't need a third party or additional person to put in closed captioning. It just works automatically. So that's really coming, and we will release it by the end of the year. It will be available to all paid customers, and it's already available today to our K-12 customers, and we're kind of gradually will provide it to everyone by the end of the year. And Brandon, if you want to contribute to that and Ed, feel free.
Definitely. I mean, it's one of the things that we have teams that are focused on the accessibility, and really in our vision of making video communication frictionless, we look at how to build features that are accessible to all, and that is core to our design and concepts. So regardless of how someone is accessing, we want to make sure that the tool is accessible and that those are features everyone can use to have a great user experience. I highly recommend that folks check out our accessibility site that outlines a number of those features, and I'm sure they'll put that link in the chat here to that site.
Yes, we can go ahead and grab that. And it does have great information. If you haven't been there in a while, I know the team just revamped it with more of our recent information and new features that we've released in September that really support some of the accessibility features. So definitely want to take a look at that page. Let's see. This is another good question on end-to-end. Brendan, or maybe Valchami, you might want to chime in, but can you use end-to-end encryption with a group? So I think the sample we were showing had a one-to-one meeting. And if you share with all or only selected individuals, how does the sharing piece of that work?
A wonderful question. And sort of the process that we outlined starts to scale up. So you can have group meetings with end-to-end encryption. And this is one of the things that we have spent a lot of time making sure that our end-to-end model can scale, so that you can have a Zoom meeting with 1,000 participants, but still leverage that end-to-end encryption offering. So it's core built into the technology, just as you have your Zoom meetings today. Just that key exchange process that we worked through earlier is happening with that larger group of participants.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, to add to that, what also happens is, as we have new attendees, the key exchange happens all over again. So there is enough security that like part of the session that's attended by some attendees, the key is different from like session with the other attendees, etc. So it's a little bit more complicated when you have more attendees, but the product scales and it works well.
Great, thank you. Let's see. So there's some questions coming in about virtual backgrounds. I know we're all using virtual backgrounds today. Maybe Oded, you can just touch on how you can set up a virtual background, and then just some questions about how our videos, I think everyone's commenting that you guys look great on video. It's nice and crystal clear. So maybe any other tips you have for making sure you present yourself well on video.
I can start, and Brendan, feel free to chime in. You're the master in terms of building setups. But in general, virtual backgrounds, it's very simple. You go into the setting and you upload an image that you want to be behind your kind of your face or your body, and you can either kind of create your own image by going into PowerPoint and saving it as an image, or you can go online and there are different sites that allow you to download images. You can do that. You can even upload a video, so you can have a video running behind you and use that as your virtual background. And we even have the ability to upload a presentation, where you can upload a presentation, have that as your background, and you can even progress the slides from there. Have your your video be resized and relocated on the screen based on the slides. So there's a lot of things that you can do with our virtual background, and really encourage people to be creative. And we've seen a lot of creativity around that. The second question around how to make really the video crisp and clear. So I think from my experience, lighting is really important. So make sure you're not behind light. You don't have like a window that lights behind you, and you have some kind of LED or any kind of light fixture in front of you, just straight to highlight your face. And of course, you have to look into the camera, straight into the camera. That creates that connectivity, that eye contact between you and the audience. And Brendan, go ahead and add to that.
Oh no, I think you were hitting all the key points there, Oded. I mean, from a technology perspective, definitely the lighting makes a big difference in our virtual background technology. And we have the option of doing virtual background where we will determine where you are out of the image, or if you use something like a green screen, we can actually take out the background using that. So I know on our call today, we have folks using a mix of those technologies. And it's just so exciting seeing all of the different virtual backgrounds that folks are using and how they're leveraging it. Love it when we see presentations where people are floating above their presentation and really making that an immersive experience. Or all the organizations that we've seen posting virtual backgrounds online, and we've started to see, locations that are listings of large virtual background repositories. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, and if you don't have, maybe some of you are joining from the web client, I'd highly encourage you to download the desktop client, because that's where you get access to a lot of these features where you can adjust your lighting, your noise suppression, make sure that your video quality or the camera you're using is looking good. Turn on HD if you want to send that. So that's a great place in your settings on video and audio where you can really make some nice adjustments to make sure you're sounding good and you come across very clear. All right, so Eric, there's a few questions about last week's Zoomtopia. So the first one I want to start with is, can you talk more about the Zoom Cares initiative that we announced and launched last week?
Yeah, so at the last week's Zoomtopia, I touched on the Zoom Cares initiative. And maybe let me take a step back. So as I mentioned before, right? So Zoom's value is care, meaning care about the community, customer, company, teammates, as well as ourselves. So, and the reason why we established Zoom Cares, because, this is a part of our company's, community, right? And Zoom Cares is, philanthropic entity, right? And also, focuses on social and educational inequity, right? And also as well as climate change. That's our focus. That's the reason why we established Zoom Cares. We also made quite a few contributions to a number of organizations, and also quite a few initiatives as well. Like we partner with the San Jose, Digital Divide Fund. We also made donations to the Kids for All global network. Essentially, Zoom Cares is a philanthropic entity, that lies at the heart of everyone, at Zoom, right? Give us a platform we can contribute back, by either partnering with other organizations, made donations, join some initiatives. I think that's why we are very excited. It's truly demonstrated our company's value.
Yeah, I think there was another question too, kind of touching on just does Zoom have sustainability goals, or kind of what's your vision for that piece, and maybe how Zoom's, we did Zoomtopia virtual this year. Do you envision that kind of being a core piece of the event moving forward from your perspective?
I think, we do have very good experience, right? When it comes to, having the physical event, but this is the first time. And prior to that, we thought it's pretty straightforward, easier. Actually, it turned out, it will take more effort, right, to host all virtual event like a Zoomtopia. It's not that straightforward, easy. A lot of coordination, a lot of work. The way I look at this event, I think in the future, very likely is hybrid, meaning primarily still the physical event. We all get together with a social interaction. I can tell you, when I was on stage last Wednesday, and that's that's a keynote speech. It's live. It's not about the recorded session. When I was there, nobody, no audience. You feel very awkward, and it's not that easy. So that's why I think in the future, be physical event driven, but also we also have a virtual component, right? Hybrid should be the future. Otherwise, a pure virtual event, I think it's not that easy. So.
Yeah, and I know it just helps a lot of people from all over the globe attend, which is a nice piece and a benefit of hosting it virtually, right? Is you don't have to fly, and we can reach everyone in all different continents and countries, which is really helpful. Let's see, Richard had a comment and question. So thanks for having this. So thanks for joining us, Richard. He wanted to know, Eric, what your vision for Zoom's growth is in the next 2 years, or kind of what are you thinking about for the future of Zoom?
I think first of all, before I talk about future, and we got to do laser focus on our company, the culture and value. Otherwise we really cannot survive, right? How to care about the customers, listen to them. The reason why we have a Zoomtopia, on the one hand, we wanted to share with our users the progress we made over since last Zoomtopia, since last year. At the same time, we wanted to share with our user community about some exciting new features, get their feedback, and then finalize our plan for next year. That's still the number one. In terms of the future of Zoom, over the past several years, we built a killer app. Fortunately, we really helped the world during this pandemic crisis to help people stay connected. What we can do more? What we can do, right, to build some new services, new features, essentially can transform our company from an app company to a platform. Like, we double down on SDK, we have a Zoom apps, we also have on Zoom service. That's our focus, right? How to leverage our technology to help people more, right? To empower people more, to accomplish more, right? That's a future of Zoom. That again, any feedback from our user community, we always were welcome. Essentially, that's a way for us to build the future together with our users.
Yeah, that's great. And this question that just came in from Sumit actually is kind of a good follow-up for what you just mentioned. So he's wondering, Eric, can you tell us more about OnZoom and the vision for OnZoom? Is it targeted toward businesses and engaging service providers to sell their services, or is it more for end users? Maybe just talk about kind of that platform a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe I can take a step back to share how we launched the OnZoom service. It's not like Brandon with Champion or data, we sit together, talk about, hey, let's launch OnZoom service. Absolutely not like that. Because over the past several months, guess what? We received tons of feedbacks from our users. They really enjoyed using Zoom. But at the same time, they mentioned, can you offer end-to-end service? Take a yoga class teacher, for example. Say, I needed to collect money from those participant students in different applications. I need to track who paid, who did not pay, and send them a different registration link. To how to join the Zoom meeting. And also sometimes, those students say, I want to find a better yoga class teacher. Where can I find that? Based on all those feedbacks, we realized why not, put all those features together, right? Give the Zoom meeting host one platform, right? They can host all kinds of events. Essentially give the knowledge workers a shared platform. You can share your knowledge with others. And also you can monetize that as well. As I mentioned at Zoomtopia last week, it's more like an Airbnb or Uber. You have a car, you have time, you'll be the Uber driver. You have knowledge, you have time, you have a Zoom account, you can become OnZoom host, right? That's the vision. I think feedback is great. Again, as mentioned, I registered the event, right, to try to learn the cooking, right? I think this is something we really have a passion, how to make OnZoom service bigger, to truly have people help knowledge workers.
Yeah, and if you are interested, I just put in the links in chat, so where you could learn more about becoming a host on Zoom. If you want to check that out, there's some links that you can definitely take a look at. Rebecca is asking, maybe for Oded, where or how can they, if you're a customer of Zoom, suggest a new feature?
Yeah, that's a good question. One option is from the client itself, you can provide feedback. So you can go into the settings and you can find it there. You can also go to our support page and kind of create a request there. So that's another option. And Brendan, any other options that we can suggest to users?
So beyond that, anytime that you talk to a member of the Zoom team, your account representative, your customer success manager, we always love hearing your feedback. So please share it with them, and that definitely all gets consolidated internally as we look at the roadmap moving forward.
Yeah, that's the way we operate. Really listen to customers' feedback, and like Eric said, when we develop something, it's really based on our users' feedback, and we kind of take that and run with it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So if you don't have that turned on in your settings, there's the option to send us the feedback after that meeting. So definitely turn that on so we can get that from you. Let's see, there's a few questions just about kind of how to use different features of Zoom. So I wanted to touch on a few. Jorge was asking if he goes into a Zoom meeting or even a wedding on Zoom, he's wondering how he sees everyone who's in that meeting as a participant versus just the person who's speaking. So maybe we can talk about the different views that you have options to see.
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that. We have different views. So if you go to the upper right corner of the desktop client, you can see the speaker view and the gallery view. And when you choose between the two, the gallery will show everyone that's on video up to 49. If you have more than that, you'll have to kind of scroll. And remember, the 49 is kind of a checkbox that you need to check on the settings. Otherwise, it can be kind of 25 at a time. So you can play with how many you see at one time. And any case, if you exceed that number, you can scroll and you can see that there's a pagination of those different videos. And then there is the speaker view where it shows the speaker in a large view. And then there is a strip of the rest of the participants up to 6. And so if you have more than that, you can also scroll and see more participants. Now there is also another view when people are sharing, there is a side-by-side view where you can actually see the presentation and you can see the video side by side, and then you can choose again which mode you see in each one. So there's a lot of options, and that's part of how we operate. We provide people the flexibility to customize the way they want to view our webinar or our meeting, and so really explore it, look at the options, and while you're in a meeting, try to change your view to find the right one for you at that meeting, based on the meeting itself or based on your preferences.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely take a look and play around with those views. You can start up a meeting with a friend or colleague and test them out and see what that looks like. I see that Michael and KB are asking a few questions. Michael's like, how do I become a master Zoom host? Or, what tutorials do we have available to become experts at Zoom? So we do offer daily live training, and we have on-demand training. So if you visit our website and go to zoom.us/events, there's a link to go to live training. There's webinars that happen every day. You can look through the library if you want to watch something on demand, but we definitely have awesome hosts that will teach you how to use all these features. They run these every day in different time zones. So I'd highly encourage you to go and take a look at some of those trainings. They'll go into more of the feature details and how to turn those things on and off and what each feature does. All right, let's see. So Eric, last week you spoke with Mark Cuban and you guys talked about your basketball team matchup. Any ideas on when you think you might be able to make that happen?
Oh, I don't want to talk about that anymore because I lost. I lost the game to Mark. Anyway, so I truly enjoyed it at the fireside chat session. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, actually, I published an article yesterday. What I learned, from Mark Cuban, right, at Zoomtopia. Feel free, go to the LinkedIn, right, and take a look at the article. He's such a great leader, entrepreneur, visionary. I really learned a lot. He's very authentic. He's a great leader. I received tons of very positive, great feedback. And so I think I already published that article yesterday. So, and also you can, play back the video and also published on YouTube as well. And again, and I really enjoyed that session. I miss him. Hopefully we can play a real game together, but it's hard to invite other, top players.
At least, the championship already happened for the NBA, so they might be free for a little bit, but I'm sure their season starts soon.
Again, he's such a great guy, great leader.
Yeah, he had some great insights too. I great quotes from his session. So I'd highly encourage you guys to take a listen if you have time to that one.
Very true, yeah.
Let's see. So some questions about streaming. So how do I stream a Zoom session to Facebook or YouTube? Do we have that capability? So maybe we could touch on that, Oded.
Sure. Well, basically, if you want to do that, you first need to enable it on your account level. So it needs to be on the web setting, needs to be on. And once you're on, you will be able to see it on the toolbar at the bottom. And when you are in a meeting or in an event, you'll be able to go through that process of kind of choosing which service you want to stream to, either YouTube or Facebook, or if you have your own custom streaming, you can choose that. And when you choose one of them, you go through a process that maybe, Brandon, if you want to add more technical details to, you need to kind of authenticate and choose the right channel on YouTube and then stream it to YouTube. And you need to have the YouTube open on another window just to make sure it works and to click the right buttons on the YouTube or Facebook side.
Perfect. Yeah, and you can, we used some custom streaming services last week. I've used all of them. You can play around with them too by just putting them private. So if you want to do a test, turn that on. You can send it just to maybe your own page where no one can see the stream. That's a great way to get more familiar with how the flow works and just managing and navigating that. So you have practice before you actually do it live. So I definitely would do a test session.
Practice. This is one of those features that you really want to practice, because it requires configuration with other servers. So really encourage that.
Yes. Okay, this is a really good question and maybe touches back to some of the Zap announcements we had last week. But Eric, you mentioned, having 19 Zoom meetings in a day. How do you manage like meeting fatigue and being online and being on for so many hours? Are there any tools or kind of tricks that you have? And maybe Brendan, Oded, Vilchami, any tips or tricks you guys have to combat meeting fatigue?
Yeah, one tip I can share with you is to leverage again our technology, which is the Zoom ads. Last week we announced a partnership with Ariana Huffington's, her company's app Thrive, right? Essentially within the Zoom user interface, I feel like a little bit I was depressed. I maybe the long hours meeting. I can click, use that apps. Can see some very cool, images, maybe listen to the music, or some very motivating quote, and essentially can let me take a break, right? And that's kind of mental health app. Maybe other apps can certainly help. I think that is one of the tips I'd like to share.
I can share too. I think it's along the same lines of Eric. Until we have the Zaps available from Thrive, what I do is I try to choose a background of my own, a photo that I took myself in the past, like a Japanese Zen garden or my favorite beach, and I put that on. And then people are asking, okay, what do you have as your background? And then I tell the story of the photo, and that creates that kind of reset that Ariana was talking about with our existing tools that we have. Of course, it will be much better when we have the Thrive Zap, but until then, that's what I use.
I think I do something similar to Oded, but I have all these golf course pictures. So these are all the golf courses that I played. So based on who I'm meeting with, I'll pick a golf course that is closer to them. Okay, so that's fun. The other thing we have also done is when you have these meetings, you can invite a special guest, like a surprise guest or somebody. I think one time we had like a birthday for somebody, and then we had a llama join the meeting. Somebody came with a llama, did a birthday song, etc. So the advantage is Zoom gives you all these flexibility to bring anybody from any part of the world very easily. So it does help to take breaks like that.
And I'd probably reiterate everything that everyone has shared before. The other feature that I use within the product is actually hiding my self view as an option. And I've heard people appreciate that. In prior times, I didn't walk around looking at a mirror constantly. So turning off that self view so that I can focus solely on that person and not have any other image on the screen lets me feel really connected to them at that time.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Let's see, Kara Lee has a really good question about running an event. So she is going to use Zoom for a conference with about 500 people and just wanted to know if she should use a password, and maybe we could talk about best practices for when you're hosting some of these larger events.
Well, the power of the platform is there are a lot of options for events, and really depending on the format, you can choose which features and functionality you'd like to use to protect them. So for items where it's a large audience and you want to be sharing a message and have sort of the Q&A similar to where we're right now, there are things such as our webinar offering. On the other side, if you're looking at more intimate sessions with a lot of conversation, naturally we have our meetings product, where you have the security icon and have the ability to control who can share screen, if folks can chat, and a range of options there. We've also seen in like the education setting and from some of these use cases that folks want to authenticate people before they connect into their session. So we now have the ability to require people to be signed into Zoom before they join your session, so you know who's joining. Or if you have a single sign-on provider, you can actually authenticate them all against that system before allowing them into your meeting, and then can control their experience. So I think those are some of the ones that immediately come to mind. Oded, Beltrami, are there other features that come to your mind immediately?
Well, you know, webinar is a good option to have like a one way without interruption. So I think if you are really concerned, choose a webinar, and then you have more control over the meeting. That would be my recommendation.
Mine would be the same. Use the webinar and just the people that you want to be in the panelist, have them in the panelist, and then you can control like who do you want to allow to talk or show video, etc.
Yep. And I'm going to drop a blog in. I think there was a question about, and we've sort of touched on this with this answer, but you know, what security features has Zoom implemented? So we've talked about passcodes, waiting rooms, that security icon now that's in on your screen if you're the host, where you can really manage participants and what they can do. I'm going to drop the link to a blog that kind of summarizes all the different security features we've released. And then we also have a web page on our site. So there's the security and privacy page that has a lot of great information. So if you haven't visited that page, I'd highly recommend you take a look at that page as well. But again, there's no harm in starting up a meeting with a friend, with just yourself even, and playing around with some of those settings. Maybe have someone join as an audience member for the webinar, see what their experience is like, what you want to turn on, what you want to turn off, whether you want to use chat or Q&A, what feedback do you want? So as you think about preparing for these larger events, definitely take advantage of the fact that you can start up a meeting, you can start up a webinar at any time, you can do multiple, you can practice as much as you need to, and it's definitely going to make for a better user experience. All right, let's see. I think we have a few more minutes, so I'll try to wrap up with a few more questions. Let's see, a lot of questions around breakout rooms, and just kind of people are very excited for that, Oded. So I just wanted to point out we are getting a ton of questions, and if you haven't used our breakout room feature, definitely take a look, turn that on and test that out. Another great question was around simultaneous interpretation, which we did use last week. So maybe you can touch on, yes, we do have that, and how does that work? Can we maybe touch on that?
Kristen, I guess you're the expert.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely used it last week. It's a great feature. When you're scheduling your webinar, you have the option to enable that live interpretation. So you do need someone who speaks that language. So I myself, unfortunately, don't speak another language. So you need to either get a friend or someone, your colleague, or hire someone to do that for you. But you can add that person in as a panelist for your webinar. You can add them in and they'll be assigned to that language. And when we actually go live in that session, you'll have that person assigned to, let's say, translate and speak in Spanish. You can turn that feature on and they're prompted to go into that audio channel where they would provide the Spanish audio. And it's just a voiceover, so there's English in the background, but it's at a lower volume. They can't really hear it, but you'll have that in-language interpretation as your main audio if that's the channel you've selected. And I think we have up to 12 languages now that you can choose from. Is that right? Or maybe there's...
Yeah, well, yep. I think it's actually customizable.
That's right. Okay, so it's much more.
And I think this is one of the features that is a must to practice, right? You can't go live in an event with this feature. You have to practice. You have to make sure the interpreters know what they have to do and how they come in. And it's really critical to practice this feature.
Yeah. And a great tip is just making sure your interpreters use the chat in the webinar as panelists so that they can chat back and forth to one another. So if they're switching off, they're using that. We always like to have them rename themselves as like telling us the interpreter language that they're doing. So it might say Kristen Spanish. And that way it's really nice to maybe help you as the host identify who's doing what language if you're not familiar with the people that you're bringing into the webinar to help. But definitely practice. Let's see, and then I saw a question, maybe we can touch on this. Is unmute all still available? Which I know it is. Maybe you can clarify that.
Yes, so the problem we had in terms of the unmute in general is that if you allow someone else to unmute you, it actually can be a privacy issue, because if that person is not aware that you're unmuting them and they speak something that they don't want to share, it's a problem. And so we've built this mechanism that overcomes that by basically allowing a certain host to unmute you moving forward. And the way it works is, once you enable this feature, the first time you join with that host can ask to have that capability to unmute you moving forward. And then once you approve it once. Every time you join a meeting with that host will be able to unmute you. And the thought behind it was mostly around a classroom experience where the teacher will have that ability to all the students in the class. And the first call, maybe the parent is participating as well, and kind of make that acceptance. And moving forward, the teacher can be the one that can always unmute the student, but no one else can do that.
Perfect. Well, I know we're at the top of the hour. Eric, any final thoughts to wrap us up?
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for your time today. Again, if you have time, please take a look at Zoomtopia, in particular for those 7 security-related sessions. And we do all we can for you, and Zoom is for you. And see you next month. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Valchami. Thanks, Brendan and Oded. Appreciate everyone joining us today. Have a good day.